Hey friends, I wanted to share with you an idea that I have, and we're going to kind of work along. I've already pre-cut some of this stuff, so it wouldn't take as much of our time. If you have questions that you'd like to ask, and just leave a comment, and I'd be happy to answer. But today I want to make a wedding card, and I'm just kind of doing this on the fly. A friend asked me if I could make a wedding card, uh, and my parameters are purple and gold. So I dug through some old tutorials and suggestions, and I found a download by Connie Stewart, and it is for a drop-down gatefold card, which is really quite a unique and fun card. And there are cutting instructions. If you would like to know what those are, I would be happy to help you with those. Basically, you can also just go to March 26, 2024 on her blog and get that download. She did some stamping and stuff on hers. I'm going to do mine a little bit differently just because I want to really fancy it up because it's for a wedding. So I've got my cuts here. And then I did trim this drop-down piece out just a little tiny bit because I want this to fold nice and tight, and I know I'm going to be layering some Designer Series paper on it. So I'm going to set that aside for now. This is Highland Heather. And then I did get out the Perennial Lavender Designer Series paper, and I used the, we're going to do some different kinds of embossing. I used the Distress Tile 3D embossing folder, and I've got my pieces that are going to go in different places. And these, you can see where it kind of distressed the paper, where it's got a little bit of white popping up. And I just really like what that did. And so that will be some of my layers, my banners. And then I did pull out a piece of basic beige for the inside. We'll see where we get with that. Then I also wanted to use the Beautiful Motifs dies. I think, I don't know, I've got them out. They're sitting here in case I want to use them. And in fact, I'm going to put them in this magnetic tray that my husband gave me so I don't lose them. And we'll decide what we're going to do. Then I also am using the dies from the Forever Florals dies. These were featured in our virtual card retreat, and they will be for sale here soon. I love these dies, and this has rapidly become my favorite. I did go ahead before I got on here. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I did a whole bunch thinking I was shooting a video, and then I looked to do something and realized I hadn't pushed start. So part of this is already pre-done on accident. But I went ahead and I cut out 5 sprigs of leaves out of just a scrap of white cardstock. And I'm just going to set these here because we're going to be doing some embossing. And then I also cut out of white this, and I haven't even got it all pulled out yet. This is relatively easy to weed, and the first time I used it, I actually ran it through using a dryer sheet. You can also use wax paper, anything like that. It just helps everything not stick so easily, and then you can trim it out. Now, I'm not going to worry about that this is offset because that's not the point of my design that I want to use. So, just so you know that I have different plans for this, but I did weed it out because I'm going to need it. All right, I'm going to just leave those there. And then I also cut out of Gorgeous Grape this label, I guess, and then I cut a white, so those can be available. And then I also did do the belly band out of Gorgeous Grape as well, and it is 1 1/4 by 11, and that will be what holds my card together. Then from the Perennial Lavender paper, again, I used this side, and I also ran this through the embossing folder. I wanted to give it a lot more character, and we're going to see what happens here. So now that we're caught up and then my video's actually, recording, we're going to do some playing, and we're going to hope like everything that this everything works. And you can see I wrote down some measurements because I was working along, and it's always good to have your grid paper, not only for measurements, but for messes. So for now, I want to bring in my embossing buddy, and it's just a little embossing thing to take off any fingerprints or oils or Lord knows what. And then I put my fingers right back on it, but it's fine. It's fine. And I also want to bring in, because my parameters are gold, I need to grab some gold embossing powder, which I'm sure I have somewhere. You would think. I thought I had it. Oh, I do. Okay, I do. It's in my container because apparently I used it recently. So, I'm going to get all my mess out of here. And then I'm going to just set that here for now. I'm going to take my Versamark pad and I'm going to set that out of the way for a moment. I'm just going to carefully run that over the top of that, hoping to just catch some of those edges. Yeah, it's getting sticky. I was like, is it sticky? Am I seeing? It's hard to see when you're, you don't have the light. Then I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle it with my gold embossing. And I don't even care if it does full coverage. That is not the not my plan. It's not my priority with this particular piece. And you can see it did pick up some, and I might just give it a good flick. Yeah, I like that better, and it takes some right back off. Now I'm going to repeat. We're going to repeat this process, and I think I did find that it works better kind of laying it down here. Repeat. Apparently that's going to be my new word. Repeat the process. I'm going to repeat the process again. And some of you, if you've never heat embossed before, you might be panicking, going, oh my gosh, how come she's using so much of that? Well, because I can pour it back in the container. All right. I'm not good with backwards. And you can see where that didn't hit everywhere with the embossing pad. I'm okay with that. I want it to be a little more free-flowing and not perfect, right? Because that's kind of the design I had in my mind. And then I'm going to go across this one, and I think it'll stay wet long enough to do that. And Lord only knows what that's going to look like. Let's see. I think I want that a little more heavy. A little heavier? I don't know. Okay. Again, I'm going to just sprinkle this. And I always like to give it a flick. And you see where I did not catch that edge? That I'm not a fan of. Not liking that at all. So I'm just going to give it a little wipe and go back in and see if I can't catch a little of that edge. Okay, and we got a nice big streak there. See what that looks like. And I may just take my brush here and just brush some of it off because I'm not sure that I like that big heavy streak on that one section. And then I can come back in and dip it again and get just a little less. Does that make sense? And then Lord only knows what happened on this one, so I'm going to make sure I do catch the edges because I think for the one side I want those edges caught a little bit more. And let's see what we got here. All right, and I am not done with the gold quite yet. I want to come back in here and with my little leaves, and this will probably get a little bit messier than I'd like. Actually, I'm going to grab a silicone mat for this. Bear with me while I grab that, just because I know this is going to get a little messier than I think even I want to deal with. All right. And I'm going to pop these leaves on here. And then I'm going to take my silicone pad, or not my silicone pad, I'm going to take my Versamark again and just press it right down on there. And we'll see what it does with these leaves. They're not going to be, again, totally covered. You could totally cover them. That is not my goal. Just drop that in my embossing powder. Maybe this would be helpful. We'll see. Oh, what the heck. We're just going to, that's cleanable. That's all cleanable. And see what we get here. We may hate this. We may decide this was a really uncool idea and not use them, but we'll see, right? All right, I'm going to toss these in this embossing powder and get this out of my way. I might want that again in a little bit. I am uncertain. I'm just going to go ahead and shake that in the embossing powder because there's lots in there. And you notice I haven't heat set those others yet. It's because they're fine until they get heat set. Okay, I'm going to set that there. I always forget these are backwards tweezers, and clearly that is not my gifting to think backwards. Plus, when you have a brain injury and your fine motor skills are a little compromised, that even gets dicier. And that one actually could have more on it. I might pop it back in and see. Again, I don't think it matters that much. Well, let's just throw that one around. No, I don't think I'm going to care a lot about it at all. All right, now, before we get carried away, a little tip I want to share with you that I learned years ago. You want to make sure that you put your embossing powder back in the container and then close the lid. I've seen tons of embossing powder get wasted just because people didn't understand or flicked it off or just dumped it after they were done and didn't realize that embossing powder can go right back in its container and be used and used and used and used. And I honestly have embossing powder from years of stamping. Same ones, because it goes forever. So let's go ahead and, as I said, put the lid back on that. We're going to get that out of the way. And I've got my heat gun here, and it's going to be noisy. And I'm going to kind of, what am I going to do? Because these little guys are going to fly all over. Let's try to not let that happen. But it's going to, so just give that a set. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to move those leaves out of the way so they don't, take off across the desk. And I hope you can see that magic of that just, there it went across the desk. All right, get back here. Try not to burn your hand. There we go. There's one. Scoot that little fella over here. Little fella. Let's see. I don't want these guys to go flying. So, oh guys, thanks for being patient with me and my inability to think backwards with my tweezers. You see how that just, how that just brings up that gold? I think it never ceases to amaze. And it just adds something really special. And once it's set, you can pick them up and they're good. It's going to go ahead and, okay. Remember that part about, there we go. Okay, get out of the way and let's set you over here. And let's set you over here. Let's flick you back over. And we're just going to do this to all of them. I tend to work in like stages, doing one thing at a time. That's it. Like all of my embossing, all of my heat setting, all of whatever it is I'm doing, because then, I don't know, I just find that I can assemble better if I kind of work in stages, and especially when I'm thinking on the fly, and I'm liking how they're not completely covered. I think that's turning out kind of how I envisioned it in my mind. Okay, so we've got our leaves. Ouch, that's hot. Don't pick it right up. There's a tip. Don't pick it right up, because you're going to do two things. So let's see if we can fix what we just did. The two things you're going to do is, okay, get thumbprints in it, which I didn't really want. There we go. We can heat those prints right back out. So there you go. There's a nice tip. Don't pick it up right away, and you can get your prints out of it. Now, I think I can pick it up now. But you know what? Let's just be safe and set it there. Now we're going to go ahead and heat emboss our papers that we just kind of spread that ink on. So they've been dry embossed. Now we're going to heat set them. So they have dry embossing and then heat embossing. Again, I said we want just some interest. I want it to be kind of fancy and a little bit over the top, because after all, it is a wedding card. And do be careful with your heat guns. They can get hot. And I could put the silicone mat under this, but I've got that Versamark all over it, and it's going to need to be cleaned, and I don't want to do that. So we're just going to use the glass mat and paper here. It's not going to hurt anything. I have to tell you, when I first started stamping, you're going to laugh, I actually used to stand over my stove and heat emboss my stuff, because we didn't have heat guns. And finally my husband saw what I was doing and gave me his heat gun from the garage. It was a big one, and it was like for stripping paint and wallpaper, but I figured it out, and then I didn't have to do it over my stove and burn things. And we're going to go ahead again and just, you see how it's just kind of random? Now you could really ink it up if you wanted to and just get it covered. Totally do what's your style. That is kind of not really my style. Another thing you could do is, you know, cut them in strips after you have them done. I may try that on another card and see what kind of fun things I can come up with. But I have to tell you, I almost think that I want to add the gold to these other ones that I embossed, the purple ones. So we may go back in and do that. Like I said, we're creating on the fly. But the more that I look at these, the more that I think I might want to just do that, to add even some more gold. And the final, well, not the final one, because I've changed my mind, haven't I? Again, I don't want it to fly all over. I was thinking this might be like watching paint dry, but it's really not. It's fun to watch these highlights just pop up and start shining, you know, where you didn't think it would. And it's always so easy to see when it's set, because everything just starts to shine, right? Okay, and like I said, I really think I think this is going to look not as elegant if we don't do the same thing to this. So I'm going to just bring this pad in again, and again wipe and wipe and wipe. As much or as little as you want. And again, I like how this, not only did it dry emboss, but I'm making a mess, but the heat embossing as well, just, oh man, it's going to make this look so pretty. And I think while I'm at it, okay, that can sit for a minute because it's good and wet. I'm going to bring in this piece that I did, and I'm going to kind of just go in and touch it in places. Just touch it and call it good. And get this out of my way. And again, I'm going to bring that gold back in because, like I said, we're creating on the fly, and it's kind of fun to think about that creative process as you work on something and you think, oh, I could do this or I could add this, and you know, there's no rules. And then, you know, if you don't like what you just did, well, don't add it. That's kind of the beauty of that as well. I always like to give a flick off because it, otherwise, well, it just makes a difference. And you see, I didn't use the embossing buddy on that. And, you know, some people say it makes a ton of difference. Others do not agree with that. I'm on the fence. I don't think I care one way or the other, and I don't know that I've even noticed anything one way or the other. All right. And just trying to see if I want it. Nope, I think that's good. And I'm just going to set this time just completely out of the way for the sake of time. And again, we're going to come back in and just heat set these, and let's get that out of the way. And see how it's popping up there, and just, again, just so pretty. And that does have a little bit of a hard edge on it. I don't care because of what I'm going to do with that. It's not going to matter. Oh yeah, yeah, you can see that made all the difference. Now that looks elegant too. I'm glad I decided to just do that. I think it's going to make all the difference on this card. And last one. And you see where I kind of squished more of the Versamark on this one? I did that on purpose so I could get some gold kind of down in these areas where it's not just on the raised surface, but kind of all over. Let's make sure everything's set, and we're good. I am going to get that completely out of my way because it's hot. So just going to set this down and out of my way. All right, now I'm going to get this grid paper out of here because it is covered in everything I didn't want it to be covered in. And I think I'm actually just going to bring a whole pad in so that we don't have a glare. I'm going to put all my pieces up here, and we're going to fiddle around a minute. I just want to make sure I have all the pieces that I want to play with. And I've got some trimmers, and then I've got my piece that we're going to stamp on. And I'm actually using the Beautiful Motifs stamp set. It's this one. I love it. It's one of my favorites. And I'm going to wishing you love and happiness that lasts a lifetime. That seems perfect. And I'm going to stamp that using Gorgeous Grape. And I always like to, of course, stamp up really nice, really ink up your stamp. And then I make sure and look at it and see if it's inked. And then I just stamp off one time to make sure everything looks good. There's no bumps or lumps or dog hairs or anything like that that could be in there. And then I try really hard to stamp as straight as possible. So I try to line everything up somewhere that I can see it and hope for the best when my head's in the camera. That looks exactly how I wanted it to look. I'll close my ink pad and get it out of the way. And actually, I'm going to set that aside. Look how nice that looks. Now, going to do a little bit of assembly here, and this is going to take a minute because, like I said before, actually, I did want to bring in a piece of the Basic Beige. I think that's going to look a little more elegant and a little bit nicer than the, I'm going to cut this at 4 1/8. I was going to say 4 1/8 by 5. Let's see. I don't want to go 5 1/2. I want to go 5 and 1, 2, 3/8. 5 3/8. I want this to fit in tight to the edges. What I was going to say is I think this will look a little more elegant. I may be wrong, but I think it might. And then, oh, okay, we're going to kind of start building. So bring in your card base. And then I like to give everything a nice burnish with my bone folder because I want everything to lay nice and flat and look finished. And like I told you, I did trim that inside edge down just a little bit because I knew I was going to be doing some layering and I don't want it to not look nice. Does that make sense? All right. I want this one on the outside because I've got that weird edge. And this is going to come in here and it's going to fit relatively tight. And I think it's probably smart to use glue because you've raised your edges and your surfaces and you've got less area, less like working area. And I think I'm out of glue on this one. Well, I got another one. I'll deal with that one later. But you have less surface. I guess that's what I want to say. Less adhesive surface or contact surface. I am making up words left and right. And I kind of want to make sure I get these edges so that it just looks nice, right? And it lays nice. After all, it is a wedding card. Like I said, it's going to fit tight to the top and bottom. And I think I may, guys, I may do it. I may want to do a little tiny bit more embossing, some more heat embossing. You don't have to, but I really think I want to. I don't know. I'm trying to decide. I feel like I want to come down those edges a little bit and heat emboss, but maybe not. Let's leave it for now. And actually, I want to come in here for a moment. I'm going to set this aside. I want to stamp the inside of the card. And I'm trying to think what would be a pretty stamp. We want them. Okay, I'm going to do a little spin and see what I have that might just be really elegant with that. I've got some. Let's see, what is our word? Let me see what are my words kind of look like. Wishing you love and happiness. So I kind of like the idea of the leaves. And I know I'm like, oh, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I want it to be elegant and I want leaves. And I don't think we're going to do Dino Days. That seems weird. But you know what? Cake Celebrations actually has some nice leaves in it. So I want to come in here, and these are all stuck down. And look at that mess. It's fine. I don't know. Those seem short. I don't think I want short leaves. Oh, I know what we're going to do. Never mind. We're not going to do that at all. I'm going to use a die. I want to go with Love and Hope, actually. There's a leaf in here that I quite like. And I think it will look really nice in here. I'm going to put this on a block. I'm going to use this just leaves and berries. And gosh, guys, I think we should go with gold again. And good thing I left that sitting over there. So I'm going to get out my Versamark again. And I'm going to get out that other, I'm going to bring back in my messy paper. Why not, right? And I want to come around here. And I think I want to do this. And then I want to put a third one up at the top. And I can see it. You may not be able to see where it's shiny. You might be able to. Just, you can see a little bit where it's shiny. Let's go ahead and bring back in our tray that we have all this in. And just going to go ahead and sprinkle. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I want it to kind of be cohesive. And I don't think it would be cohesive if... Okay, now you can see something that is worth being shown and that is fixable. You can see where the edge of my stamp got caught on in that Versamark, and I don't want that there. I don't want that mistake to show. So I'm going to come in with my brush and get that out of there. That way, and I've got a little bit up here. That way it doesn't look unprofessional. I don't mind it looking handmade at all. I mind it looking unprofessional and sloppy, and I don't want sloppy. In fact, I'm still seeing just a little bit that I don't like. And let's go ahead and heat set this. And on this particular one, okay, that's heat set, and I do think that looks much nicer. On this particular one, she does not want a sentiment inside because she wants to write in it. I'm going to go ahead and just set this as, well, no. Well, maybe. I'm trying to decide. I don't want to stick my finger in it until it's dry. Okay, so this is what happens when I think on the fly. I want these to go on the inside. So again, I want to make sure that I get a lot. Did I grab the empty one again? Sure did. That's funny. I want to make sure I get glue on this. You could use your other adhesives, but like I said, you've lost some surface area by dry embossing that, and you don't want to do that. This does have a direction. Those flowers do go up and down. It's not as noticeable because I did heat emboss that. But you want to make sure that, you know, your flowers are going in the correct direction if that matters to you. And then again, we're going to do that to the other side. And like I said, I cut these in eighths because I like them tight to the edges. I think sometimes that just really makes it look more elegant. and a little more professional, but you do what works best for you. Because this is a wedding card, it mattered more to me. Might as well go ahead and put this in. You could use your regular tape adhesives. This is out, so this is what's going to get used. I always like to make sure I go to my edges, just because I want it to stick and stick well. Again, this one's real tight to the edges. All right, give that a nice press. Oh, look how pretty that is. Or I think it's pretty. You don't have to agree, but I think it's pretty. All right, now I have, I was like, where's my other piece? Let's go ahead and put these on. So I'm going to turn this way, and I'm going to, again, do this. And put those tight again to all my edges. Everything lines up. You can see how I always have this thing. If you've cut it right and you line it up on 3 sides, you know it's going to lay down on that 4th side. Got a little tiny bit of glue on my finger. Don't care. Going to do the same thing on this side. And then we get to kind of play with how we're going to decorate it. Again, like I said, I kind of like to, I don't know, I probably do way more glue than you need to, but I just really want my stuff to stay together. I think it comes from when I used to do craft shows years ago, and I live in a climate that can get really cold, and when I would hot glue something together, and you'd go out in that cold, it would fall apart. It would just come unstuck, and that was like, oh, so awful. It killed my soul. All right, now let's go ahead. This is going to be the front of our card. And I still think, nope, this is fine. I have an idea. I was kind of worried about it not being as tight, but then I remembered I had a plan. All right, and again, just want to make sure this lays down nice and flat. And the top and the bottom are equal in my gluing. Now you're probably thinking, that looks awful. I kind of would agree with you. It's not fantastic. But what I want to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm actually not going to keep this in the frame. I'm going to kind of do some fussy cutting and kind of play. And I learned this on our virtual card retreat, and I loved that I could think outside of the die, so to speak. And I want to just follow some of these edges. And then I'm just going to give that a clip and a clip. We're going to do this all the way around, and then I'm going to cut it. I'm going to do even probably more tweaking on it. I guess that's the best way to put that. But I don't want this frame around it, and that's part of the reason I didn't care if it was lined up perfectly on the paper. I will tell you, these make fun stencils. They make fun masks, which you can do. And I actually have been playing with creating my own masks, and it's not hard at all. So think about how to use your stencils, because, or not your stencils, your dies, because there are ways that you can do them that is different than what you thought you could do. So be helpful if I don't get that in everything. I'm going to give that a trim right there because I don't want that leaf, and I really don't want that stem. Let's get that out of the way. It's going in the garbage pile. And then let's give that a trim. I think I want that. Like I said, you just kind of start looking at it and see I'm going to go ahead and just cut this off and out of my way because it's making my life difficult. And you can see where it's not even going to matter that that has that weird hard edge, because we're going to trim it off. Or I'm going to trim it off. You can do what you want. And it's kind of nice too, because you can trim it and you kind of have like a natural line of where you're working. And I don't care too much about that one because I'm going to, again, tweak around. All right, so this is kind of what my trimmed piece looks like. I don't love how it looks, but that's okay because it doesn't have to look beautiful. Now I do want to keep in the back of my mind that I have a band that's going to come around this. So I've got this belly band. You can see now why it was important to trim that out a little bit. So I have this belly band that's going to come around, and you can measure it out if you want and, you know, get it perfect. I'm probably not that wound up about it, but I do know that I want this to kind of lay in the center of this, right? So I know how that's going to be decorated, and I know that I want a couple leaves. So I'm going to set those leaves there. That's the ones I want to use. Now, this, I want it to be kind of spectacular inside. So I think I'm going to kind of trim this out right there, and maybe right here, and bump that right to that edge. All right. Now, you could use your glue, you could use whatever you want. I think for we'll use glue. I think it'll be okay. I was gonna say I could have done like adhesive sheets or my Xyron, but that requires, you know, not thinking on the fly and also walking across the room and digging through things, and I don't want to take up all your time. Like I said, this is taking a little more time than the average video just because kind of creating on the fly here. I'm going to lay that down. Hold it down for just a sec so that it actually sticks. And then I'm thinking maybe some kind of words could go right here, because like I said, she is going to write on the inside, but something really pretty should go right here. Ooh, I know. All right. We're stopping for a moment. I'm going to let that dry a little more. And I'm just going to put a clear block on it to give it some weight. While that's sitting there, let's go ahead and get the flower out of that same set that we just used, out of the Love and Strength. And let's go ahead and mount that. And we're going to get our Versamark again. And a scrap of white. Should I do a scrap of white, or should I do the... Nope, I'm going to go ahead and use another piece of basic beige that I have out here. And let's go ahead and have an idea. I hope it goes well. We're going to go ahead and get that nice and inky. Put that about right there. And while I have it out, there is a heart in this set as well. And I'm going to grab that out. And let's go ahead and one, two, three. That's fine. and get everything out of the way. I'll clean all that stuff up later. Get this out of the way. I was thinking of putting words on it, but I don't want it to get super wordy. And again, this is for someone else, and so you never know if they want it super wordy. Let's see if I have enough stuff in here to just coat this without pouring it out of the bottle again. Sure do. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab our heat gun again. And one more time, friends. And then we will fussy cut these. Oh, and there's the magic happening. I love it when the magic happens. I'm curious if the Hope and Love have dies. If they do, that would make... Nope, that's not it. Well, HI. Well, I don't see any. They might, and I just don't know. I can fussy cut. It's not the end of the world, and I really don't mind fussy cutting. I'm going to let that sit for just a second so it can cool down. We don't want thumbprints or burns. Now I've got this piece again, and I want to figure out how it can come in and also fit. So I think I really want to, I'm going to get rid of this much for sure. And, okay, and I'm going to get rid of that end. Now, again, we're going to glue it down. And like I said, there's adhesives. You could use like an adhesive sheet before you ever die cut it. That would be smart. Although heat embossing on it could really affect your adhesive. So you would want to practice that with a small thing first. I really don't mind the glue. You can dot it. You can do whatever, but it's fine. It's going to be fine. All right. And how did I have that? I had that right on the edge a little bit. Okay. I'm good with that, and I want to bring that back in and just let that sit and hold it down for a sec. Get that out of the way. Now, let's see. Let's go ahead and fussy cut these. And I don't know if you fussy cut. A lot of people enjoy it. Some people hate it. There's a few tips I have. Move your paper way more than you move your scissors, and you won't get choppy cuts. I think my other tip would be just go slow and don't try to hurry. And I always say cut with an edge that is just kind of a little bit outside, not right up to your lines, because it gives a nicer like 3D effect. It doesn't look flat. But if that happens, you know, don't sweat it. It's not the end of the world. And if it does have dies, of course, use your dies. I don't know if this one does or not. I could look, but I'm not that concerned about it. Not when I can cut it relatively quick. And I'm only making one card. It's not like I'm making 40 cards. I'm making one. And you could do this with any color combination. Like I said, this is very specific for a wedding card. So clearly I wanted to meet my customers' desires. Okay, that is going to be exactly what I wanted to be. So now I've got these extra leaves, and I should have 3. I do. I'm like, where'd that third one go? And this, I think I'm going to just lay it flat because we have so much going on. Although we could pop it up, but you know, she is taking it, so it's not like she has to mail it. But keep that in mind. If you have to mail it and you have a lot of bulk, you're going to pay extra postage. While that never bothers me because I'm like, well, the person's worth it. And even extra postage is cheaper than mail. Or I mean, cheaper than driving it there. Postage is mail. Never mind that comment. You know what? While I'm yapping, or while this is drying, I am gonna go ahead and grab my Xyron because it'll be easier to glue these down. Okay, so I'm just gonna slide these in my Xyron, and I could be more frugal with the tape if I wanted to, but I'm not that concerned. And now I've just created my own stickers, basically. I could have done that with the hearts as well, and I like to give it just a nice little back rub. I actually have this fun little tool that a friend made for me. She used a candle lid and then put felt on the back, and it just works nice. It's always fun when somebody gives you a tool, and why not use something a good friend gave you, because that's such a blessing, right? And then, well, and then, I was going to say, and then I'm just going to peel it off, and that sounded so helpful until it didn't, right? And now I've got it'll stick. And there's still some sticky on it, but that's all right. I'll just play with it with my fingernails and not get too worried about it. If I let every little thing worry me, I'd be a mess, right? Now I don't love that very corner section. And that is one of the reasons I created extra leaves, because I knew there was going to be spots I didn't love. And I'm not loving this, so guess what? That is going to get clipped completely off. And I want to put these hearts here, so I kind of want to put them by that flower. So let's go ahead and just set that there. And like I said, it's going to not stick perfectly for a second because of, well, we've got all that embossing and extra layers. So I'm just going to set that there again and make sure that I don't have a bunch of sticky around that's going to be a problem like on that first one because I didn't pay attention. That's what I do sometimes. All right. And then we're going to just a few more things. I do want to pull out some kind of gold embellishments for this one, and I'm sure I must have some somewhere that I really like. I don't think I want sequins. I don't think that would be all that attractive, but I always have something somewhere. You know, another thing you could do if you wanted to is use our metallic rub-ons. Those things are absolutely beautiful. And you know what? Now that I said that, I wonder if we want to use purple. I wonder if I want to use anything at all. You know what? I think I'm not going to. Disregard. I'm going to pull out these metallic rub-ons and look and see what I might have in here. I might not have anything I love, but I might have something I really love. I'm kind of looking at this one with these hearts. I think I have an idea. All right, that should be all glued down. All right, just a few more leaves here. And let's see. I think I'm going to kind of do that there. And let's do one up here at the top. All right. I just like how that just reveals that. That's just so pretty. All right, now that I said what I said about the metallics, I pulled this out, and it's kind of easier if you cut them off the sheet. I have found that if you don't, you can have some dilemmas sometimes. But I don't want to use this whole rub-on, but I'm loving the hearts. So I think I might just fold this back just a little bit, because I don't want to use all of them up either. So I'm just going to give that kind of a fold. And kind of come in here and just give it a little back rub. I think I might use my bone folder just to make sure I get everything off. See if that peels off, if I did my job right. I did. Give it I always like to kind of pull it off slowly, make sure that it got on there well. Sometimes it's a little more tricky. Still, that little guy just does not want to cooperate. That's all right. Let's just work it down. I guess I don't really care that much. I got to tell you, I bought a ton of these because I love the effect. And I'm going to give it a little more pull. Sometimes they come off super easy and sometimes I don't. Oh. See what I mean? It's going to be on my grid paper and that's fine. It's there now. Now it's going to make me smile. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to bring my belly band in. And I'm going to kind of want to make sure I line it up on a line on my grid paper so I know where I'm at. And just kind of say, and I'm going to eyeball it. You can be really precise if you want to. I don't think I need to. I think I can eyeball it well enough. And I'm going to give it a press over here. And then I'm going to give it a press this way. And again, now you can see it's off a little bit. If that bothers you, fix it. It does not bother me. All right. And I don't really want to give it a hard press because I want it to wrap. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I want to glue this onto here. Give that a nice press. And I want to come back here for just a moment. And like I said, even though it doesn't line up right across the band, you're never going to know. Because the idea is the band is really just to hold it together. This, though, I want to make sure is right. So I want to go, okay, well, that is all going to glue down there. So what I'm going to do, I hope this doesn't make it look super hard. I'm going to put glue just here and just there, because I don't want it on my card, but I want the belly band to hold, right? And then I'll line up my tips. Again, I just eyeballed it because I remembered where my glue was. I'm going to lay down my tips. And now you can see that it really does not matter where. I'm going to just let that set for a minute. Seems like the glue is taking a minute today. I think it's because it's really humid outside. And that should be held down. And you know what? While I'm doing that, I've got 2 more leaves. Remember, we had 5 leaves. I'm going to go ahead and run them down through my Xyron as well. It's just, you, like I said, you can do whatever you want, but it makes it not quite as messy. And I think if I had to put adhesive on it, like the adhesive sheets, and then heat embossed, I think that could have really messed up the adhesive, and that is not something that I really, really want to do. So let's just say it was probably a good thing I didn't. And you know what? I did decide I'm going to grab those purple embellishments, because the more I think about it, I think that might be really pretty with these leaves. And yeah, let me grab those. You know, just because you it's not a brand new product, you still may have them and want to use them because, well, you know, we don't use everything up all the time, right? All right, I'm going to take and put these leaves kind of on the side of this. And then I will also decorate the envelope. You guys can decorate the envelope however you want, but because it is, I mean, you get this super fancy wedding card, you kind of want a really nice envelope for it to go in, right? So I want that like that. And then I will clean up any extra glue I have. I have a little embossing or adhesive remover that if I have extra, I can get it off. And I don't know. Trying to decide how I want that. Oh, I don't want to cover the word. Let's go with that. There we go. That works. And like I said, I do think I want to use just a little more purple on it. So I'm going to pull these guys out and see if I want to. I may not want to. I may fully change my mind again, which is the beauty of this. I think I'm going to go with little, though. I want to do like, oh yeah, I think I want to do one there and one there, and I think I want another. I'm going to go with a light one. I think right there. Yep, I think I wanted the purple. All right, friends, thank you for hanging in there with me and creating a card as we go. Again, this is using the gatefold that folds down, and you'll see how that just slides off. I want to be gentle with it because I don't want to tear it up after all my work. So that'll slide off, and I like that it's a little snug because then the card will hold well together. All right, and then it opens and opens, and she can write her message in there for her friends. Again, thank you so much. My name is Brenda with My Pastor's Wife Designs. I really appreciate you just taking the time to hang out with me, and it will go back in, I promise, guys. I just had that a little bit snug. Creating this card, and I hope you will give it a try, and I hope you'll create on the fly and just kind of create as you go and not necessarily have to have a plan.